Hello, I'm Judith Swack, originator of Healing from the Body Level Up methodology. Healing from the Body Level Up is designed to get people unstuck by clearing unconscious self-sabotage. So I believe that we have a soul and it's in a body. And not only do we have a soul and a body, but we have an unconscious mind, which is a real zoo, and a conscious mind, which is your rational, literal mind. And then we have an ego structure, which is your operating system. So in terms of personality type, there are many different personality typing systems, and I like the Enneagram model of personality because it really helps you get inside somebody's mind and world very accurately. And I think that the first thing that you need to know is that there are 9 different types on the Enneagram. And the value of knowing that there are 9 different types takes you into a broader consciousness that every one of us is individual and different. Now, why is that important? Because we unconsciously project our reality onto everybody else. So we assume that our reality is your reality, which it isn't. So the point of an Enneagram type and learning the Enneagram system is to understand that not everybody is like you. And in fact, everybody is different from you. And therefore, you can't project or assume. And not only that, you cannot judge. Because guess what happens when you meet somebody who's a different type than you? You think, what is wrong with them? They're not like me. They don't value the same things I do. They don't think the same way I do. What's wrong with them? Well, there's nothing wrong with them. They have a different point of view and a different style. So this is the HBLU approach to relationship bliss. And it's a subset of the intimacy section. In order to get intimate, you have to understand somebody's internal world. As I said in the last module, intimacy doesn't mean sex, although it can involve sex. Intimacy involves understanding somebody's internal world, feeling, point of view, and reality, and sharing it, yours and theirs. And when you share your internal worlds, then you actually come together in a very intimate connection because you really connect. So in order to really connect, when I help people get happily married, which is my favorite thing to do, we figure out my client's Enneagram type and the Enneagram type of whoever they're dating or marrying. Everybody's Enneagram type needs to be known. And that's true across the board. When you work with people, when you interact with people, it's good to know their type because it helps you understand how to communicate well with them and get your message across, and also to teach them how to get their message across to you. So let's look at the Enneagram system. Now, in my world, everything is easy. So my favorite book on the Enneagram is The Enneagram Made Easy. And this book makes it so easy that it describes the 9 different types on the back cover in 2 sentences or less. So let's look at the 9 Enneatypes. So there are 9 different types. And this is the diagram of the Enneagram. I'm going to show you why it's diagrammed this way. There are 9 different types. Different authors who write about the types give them different names, but these are the names that are most common for the types. So the Enneagram 1 is called the perfectionist, also known as the critic. The 2 is the helper giver, kind of self-explanatory. The 3 is the achiever, succeeder. The 4 is the tragic romantic, the individualist. The 5 is the observer. The 6 is the loyalist, the devil's advocate, the guardian, sometimes they're called. The 7, the optimist, the dreamer, the visionary. The 8 is the boss, the protector, the asserter. So let's listen to the 2-sentence description on the back cover of the book, The Enneagram Made Easy. And as I'm reading to you, recognize the characteristics of this type and go, oh, I think I could be a this. Oh, I think I could be a that. So the Enneagram 1, the perfectionist, motivated by the need to live your life the right way, improve yourself and others, and avoid anger. Number 2, the helper giver, motivated by the need to be loved and appreciated, to express your positive feelings towards others, and to avoid being seen as needy. 3, the achiever and succeeder, motivated by the need to be productive, to achieve success, and to avoid failure. 4, the tragic romantic, the individualist, motivated by the need to understand your feelings, to be understood, and to search for the meaning of life, and to avoid being ordinary. Number 5 is the observer, motivated by the need to know everything and understand the universe, to be self-sufficient and left alone, and to avoid not having the answer or looking foolish. The 6 is the questioner, the loyalist, the devil's advocate, motivated by the need to receive approval, to feel taken care of, and to avoid being seen as rebellious. The 7 is the adventurer, motivated by the need to be happy and plan fun things, to contribute to the world, and to avoid suffering and pain. 8 is the boss, the protector, the asserter, motivated by the need to be self-reliant and strong, to make an impact on the world, and to avoid being weak. And the 9 is the mediator, peacekeeper, motivated by the need to keep the peace, merge with others, and avoid conflict. So I'm going to say this again. Everybody tune in. The perfectionist, motivated by the need to live life the right way. Improve yourself and others and avoid anger. Number 2, the helper giver, motivated by the need to be loved and appreciated, to express your positive feelings towards others, and to avoid being seen as needy. 3, the achiever succeeder, motivated by the need to be productive, to achieve success, and to avoid failure. 4, the tragic romantic, the individualist, motivated by the need to be understood and to understand your feelings and to avoid being ordinary and to search for the meaning of life. The 5 is the observer, motivated by the need to know everything and understand the universe, to be self-sufficient and left alone, and to avoid not having the answer or looking foolish. Number 6 is the questioner, motivated by the need to receive approval, to feel taken care of, and to avoid being seen as rebellious. Number 7 is the adventurer, motivated by the need to be happy and plan fun things, to contribute to the world, and to avoid suffering and pain. Number 8, the boss, the protector, the asserter, motivated by the need to be self-reliant and strong, to make an impact on the world, and to avoid being weak. And the mediator, peacekeeper, motivated by the need to keep the peace and merge with others and avoid conflict. Now, you may well think, gee, I see myself in several of these, not just one. That's because there are wings and arrows. So it turns out that you overlap 5 out of 9 of the types, which is why you may have trouble consciously deciding what type you are. And this is how it works. Let's say you're an Enneagram 9 here at the top. You will overlap into the types on either side of you, which is the 8 and the 1. These are called your wings. So as a 9, you wing into 8 and you wing into 1. As a 3, you wing into 2, you wing into 4. You see the types on either side. And you see the arrows? They're called the arrows. So when you're stressed out, you arrow into a different point, and when you feel secure, you arrow into a different type. So for the 9, when the 9 feels secure, they arrow into 3, and they achieve and succeed and are very optimistic and happy. When a 9 feels stressed, they arrow into 6 and become overwhelmed by anxiety and worry and become more self-doubting and indecisive. So as you can see, let's look at the Enneagram 2. The Enneagram 2, which is the helper-giver, when they're really stressed, they arrow into 8 and assert themselves. When they're feeling relaxed and comfortable and secure, they become juicy, romantic, and emotionally loving, warm and loving. So I asked people when they come to work with me to take an Enneagram test, not that I think they're going to be sure what type they are, but because at least they'll get in the ballpark and they'll understand close to what type they are. But I muscle test people when they come in, and muscle testing, I asked the conscious mind to send a question to their soul, and I asked their soul, what is the center of your type? And we muscle test where's the center of their type. And that distinguishes their wings and their arrows from the center of their type. And that's how we eventually figure out the exact type, because sometimes it's hard to figure out consciously. Now, let's look at the points. These are called the triads. Triads, the 8s, 9s, and 1s are called the gut points. And they start in the gut. And the gut is the center, the energy center of doing, energy, action, moving, doing. So these are the doing points. The 2, 3s, and 4s, this is also a triad because there are 3 types in it. These are the heart-centered points. The heart is the center of emotional, loving, emotional connection, emotional intelligence, the ability to feel emotions. So this is their strong suit, emotions. And then we have the head point triad, the 5, 6, and 7s. This is the head point. What do heads do? Heads think. So these are the thinking types. These are the feeling types. These are the doing types. Now, because they wing an arrow, of course, we all have 3 centers. We're all built with 3 centers. The head center does the thinking, the heart center does the feeling, and the gut center gets busy and does the doing. We all have all 3 of those centers. But depending on your Enneagram type, certain centers have more emphasis than other centers. And this is where you get problems in relationship. Because if you have people with mismatched centers, they start to not be able to communicate. So let me show you that picture again. So the head points, the 5, 6, 7s, are driven by fear. They're motivated away from fear. They're fearful, and fear drives their decisions and their actions. But they're motivated towards knowledge. So they love knowledge. They're passionate about knowledge. They want to know everything. If you want to talk to them about knowledge and information, they love it. They're not really so interested in talking about feelings. They want to learn things. They want information. And these, because they're the head points, they're logical and rational. Now we have the heart points. They're motivated away from shame. In other words, the heart points feel a lot of shame. They're programmed in their operating system to feel shame. And when people feel shame, they avoid things. So they will make decisions to do or not do something based on, are they going to be humiliated? Are they going to be rejected? Are they going to be shamed? And then decide not to. But what motivates them towards is passion, which of course is an emotion. So they want to feel passionate about things, emotionally passionate. And then the gut points run on anger. They get angry, they get busy. Anger motivates them to take action and fix what's wrong with the world and solve problems. And the gut points are motivated towards truth. They value truth above all else. So let's look at matches and mismatches. I often see head points marry heart points. And you think, how do they do that? They're so different. The head points have contempt for the emotionality of the heart points, and the heart points have contempt for the unemotionality of the head points. So how do they get along? Well, it turns out that opposites balance. So people who are head points need to feel more emotion because they're actually programmed to be cut off at the neck from their body. So they can feel physical sensations. They're not very good at feeling emotional sensations, and they're up in their head all the time. So they pair up with an emotion type who can feel what the head point is feeling and let them know what they're feeling and then draw it out of them. Meanwhile, why is a head point good for a heart point? Because when the heart point gets into drama and gets carried away by emotion, the head point calms them down by being rational and talking to them in a calm, rational voice. Look, honey, it's not all that bad. I understand that you're feeling upset, but we can do this and we can do that. And just think about it this way, and you'll be fine, et cetera, et cetera. So the emotion points that are warm and juicy basically warm up the head points, and the head points calm and stabilize the heart points. See that? It's good. Now, when you match the head points with the gut points, let's look at that. Why is that a good match? Because the gut points are the doing points. And the problem with the head points is they get caught in fear. When they're trying to make a decision, they end up thinking about all of the worst case scenario possibilities. What could go wrong? If I do this, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? And so it takes them a while to make a decision because they're fearful about all the possibilities that could go wrong. The gut points just do it. They take action. They are not afraid. So they will look at a head point and go, hurry up already. What's taking you so long? You know, you never do anything. You just sit there thinking. So the gut points get the head points moving. They get them doing. So it's a good, and the gut points get balanced by the head points because the gut points often run into action without thinking about it enough. They go off half-cocked and they don't think about it. So I'm going to tell you an interesting story about my mother. My mother's an Enneagram 6, right in the middle of the head points. She's a fear point, and she's always looking for what could possibly go wrong and what kind of danger we could be in from anywhere. And one day, we were caught in a blizzard in the Boston area, and the electricity went off at our house, and my parents lived 10 minutes away on another side of the town, and they still had electricity. So we got in our car and slogged through the mush and managed to get to their house. But I realized that I had a client coming in that day, not in person. She was in California, and she didn't know that I wasn't going to be in the office. And I didn't have access to my office, so I didn't have my database. I didn't have her file. And I thought, oh no, this woman's going to call me up and I'm not going to be there and she's going to feel abandoned and I feel bad about it. So I told my mother that I was going to the office, but of course we couldn't drive because the roads were closed by emergency. But, on a good day, it was a 10-minute walk to my office. And I figured, well, I'll put on my boots and I'll just walk to the office because I started out as an Enneagram 8. So I'm just going to tough it out and go there. And my mother shrieked and said, "Don't go out there. You'll die." Now, I was pretty used to my mother's, dire predictions. But my daughter, who was 5 years old at the time, got frightened because she thought I was going to die. And so I had to tell my daughter I wasn't going to die. But my husband said, because he's an Enneagram 9, so he's a gut point also, so he's going to do things. He said, "I'll walk with her. She'll be fine." And my mother said, "Don't do it. You're going to die." So I stopped and I thought to myself, I think she's trying to tell me something. She's a head point, and she's trying to say, think before you act. So wait, before I just rush out the door, let me stop and think. So I went like this, let me think. So I thought, and I realized that the day before on the radio, I had heard that the telephone system was offering a new service called remote call forwarding. And I thought, gee, I wonder if I can get remote call forwarding for my office phone. So I asked my husband to call up the phone company, hoping that there was somebody in the building who'd answer the phone, because after all, we were in a blizzard. And he called up the phone company and somebody answered the phone and he explained that I was a doctor and I was waiting for a call from a patient. It was very important. Could they enable a remote call forwarding? And they said, yes, we can. And they had it enabled in a half an hour. And they remote call forwarded to my father's phone number. So I sat down in the office of my father's apartment and the phone rang and it was them and they didn't know the difference. And I gave a session, not a problem. And I thought, great, that was brilliant. I listened to my mother. And I had to explain to my daughter that my mother's a 6 and what she was really trying to tell me was not that I was going to die, but I should think before I act. She said, okay. So you see, my mother also was very good because the Enneagram 8s are programmed in their operating system to not have any physical limits. In other words, we can't feel the edges of our body. So the Enneagram 8s are driven to overwork and they typically come down with illnesses of fatigue. Chronic fatigue, I had mono twice. They burn out their nervous system. They burn out because they can't feel when you have to stop. They can't feel when enough is enough. And they just keep going until suddenly they wear their body out. So my mother, when I was growing up, basically set limits. You can do this, but not two things. You can do one thing, but not two things. You have to choose. And then you have to go to bed and you have to eat dinner and you have to do your schoolwork. You have to have time for everything. So she basically was very organized and helped me learn how to organize my time and not overdo it. Again, it's very good to pair up with types who are not your type in order to get contrast. On the other hand, people ask me, well, what would be the best type for me to date or marry? And it turns out that it's easiest if you date or marry somebody who's in a wing or an arrow, right? If you're a 9, okay, marry another 9, or marry a 3, or marry a 6, or marry an 8, or marry a 1, which gives you a lot of choice. Now, periodically, I have people come in who have a lot of conflict in their marriage, and it turns out that they got married and they are completely unrelated types. They're completely unrelated. So they don't understand each other at all. And they think that each other is, insane. They have contempt and they don't understand that it's just their style, their point of view, and how they operate. So they don't take advantages of the gifts of the type to basically coordinate the system. But Rizzo and Hudson wrote a book called The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and they compared psychological development, child development, and functional family psychology with the Enneagram. And what they found is that people who are raised in healthy, functional families basically are in the high side of their Enneagram type. The wounded aspect or the downside of their type doesn't bother them that much. And if they're healthy, grown up, mature adults, they can get along with any type. If they're healthy, they can get along fine with anybody. Now, if you grow up in an okay family, a good enough family, then you're going to be bothered by some of the negative aspects of your type. And so it's just easier to get along with somebody who's in a wing or arrow or your type, because it's just easier to understand each other because you share internal realities and value systems. In The Wisdom of the Enneagram, Rizzo and Hudson pointed out that if people are raised in very dysfunctional families and experience a lot of neglect and abuse such that their character structure isn't built well, then they end up polarizing into the negative side of their type. And when that happens, they're not healthy enough to have a good relationship with anybody, really. So when people come in and want to get happily married, not only do I figure out their Enneagram type, but I also clear dysfunctional family system patterns and make sure to clear their internal character structure so that they feel like a grown-up inside instead of a child wandering around faking it in an adult body. Very important. So, has anybody figured out their type? Anybody have questions? All right, then I'm going to go on to some case examples. So I had an Enneagram 8. She was working very hard as a coach. And she fell in love with an Enneagram 5. And thought, oh my goodness, I think he's a 2. So we're going to look at this. He wasn't a 2, he was a 5. And because she thought he was a 2 and not a 5, they got into conflict. So I'm going to talk about the value systems of the type. We already did the motivational energies. Now we're going to do the values. So these are called the addictions of the type. And it doesn't mean like an addiction, like an alcohol addiction. It means that the center of their type is addicted to or compelled to or focused on a certain core issue. The Enneagram 1s are addicted to anger, which means they always have a low-grade undercurrent of anger running through their system. In the background, they're always angry. And when you tune in, remember they're called the perfectionist. What is the anger about? They're angry that nothing is perfect. Nothing in this world is the way it should be. And remember, the Enneagram 1s are not just called the perfectionist, but they're called the critic. So they're hypercritical of everything that's wrong with this world and aggravated about it because they think somebody should put it right. And of course, they think they're the ones who should put it right and nobody else is listening to them. And so everything is wrong all the time and nothing is right and nothing is perfect. And they're always aggravated. So there's this undercurrent. Now, the Enneagram 2s are addicted to pride. Pride meaning they pride themselves on being helper givers. They pride themselves on being generous and loving. Remember, they're heart-centered types. And so they pride themselves on getting you to love them by taking such good care of you that they know how to take care of you better than you know how to take care of yourself. And they're proud of that. And therefore, you should appreciate them for taking such good care of you. But the dark side of that is when you don't appreciate them enough and you can't appreciate them enough, they feel resentful and they guilt trip you into not appreciating them enough. So let's look at this. I'm going to skip to the 5. The 5s are addicted to avarice. Avarice means greed, but the type of greed is the Ebenezer Scrooge archetype. So the Ebenezer Scrooge archetype, he always feels poor. He sits in his gold counting room in his vault, surrounded with shelves of gold, and he's sitting there at this little table counting gold coins and feeling like there's never enough, and he's hoarding it. There's never enough. So the Enneagram 5s feel ashamed of being cheap, basically. So they hide it by pretending that they're generous. So here's what happens. The Enneagram 8 is working hard and wishes that she didn't have to work so hard. And she starts complaining about these annoying clients that she has to tolerate for the sake of money. And her boyfriend, who she thinks is the Enneagram 2, says, don't worry about it. You don't have to work. I'll take care of you, honey. I'll pay for this. I'll pay for that. Don't worry about it. And she thought, oh my God, my hero has come. God has sent me a blessing. I don't have to work so hard anymore. My generous Enneagram 2 boyfriend will take care of me financially, and I can relax. But I knew he was a 5 because I muscle tested him. And I said to her, he's not a 2, he's a 5. He's being generous to compensate for his shame of being cheap. So you need to make money because he's going to resent you for taking his money. If you really listen to him and you really stop working, you really rely on his money, he is going to resent you. And she didn't believe me. Guess what? She stopped working. He got abusive. He called her lazy. He called her a parasite. He would shout at her. She came in and said, well, you were right. I'm like, yeah, so start making money and leave it alone. So she went back to making money. He calmed down. Very important to understand the interior value system. Now, the 3s, they're addicted to deceit. But it's not deceit like, oh, I'm going to lie to you. It's deceit about what they're feeling. So Enneagram 3s are always cheerful and happy looking and optimistic and outgoing, and they're very nice. And they're very good at making sales because they value money above everything, and they're very good at making money. So what happens? I have an Enneagram 3. Of course, he's a top salesman, and he does real estate, and he has to be number 1. He has to be the best. So he goes out all day and he shows people real estate, and he tolerates their nonsense and their craziness, and he manages to make the top sales in his area. And he's sweet and he's nice and he's patient and he's smart and he's clever. And then he goes home and blows up and screams at his wife, who's, by the way, an Enneagram 9. So she's a doormat. She just takes it. I just want to keep the peace. You can yell at me all I'll take the blame. I just want you to feel better. And I said, why don't you tell people when they're misbehaving that they're misbehaving? And ask them to behave better. He says, well, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. But you see, the aggravation has to go somewhere. So he goes home and takes it on his wife. And the 9s will take abuse. They're just like, yeah, you feel bad. I want you to feel better. I'll take the blame. I feel bad for you. Just, radiate garbage at me and I'm okay with it. So you have to be very careful that you don't take 9s for granted and that you don't radiate garbage on them. I remember I married my Enneagram 9 husband, and periodically I get aggravated with him And then I'd realize I was aggravated about something that wasn't his fault. But the weird thing is I'd yell at him and then he'd say, well, I'm sorry. And then I would realize it wasn't his fault. Why is he saying he's sorry? And then I realized it was me being a jerk. So I actually apologized and cleared myself of something, and I didn't do it again. I'm like, no. But I also said to him, and you shouldn't apologize for something that isn't your fault either. It's like, what are you doing? So I upgraded him, right? It's like, no, that's not right either. So knowing the type, very important. Knowing where your values are going to clash. All right, now let me see. What did I do here? Okay, now let's look at the value system again. The addictions. The sixes are addicted to fear. They're afraid all the time. And so they want to be reassured. So when you date a fear point, they're going to say, if they care about you, they're going to say, watch out, be careful, don't do this. Now, that can be very annoying to a non-fear point. I don't want to hear your fears. Don't project your fears on me. You're being annoying. So you have to understand that if you have a fear point, that what you need to do to get them to stop projecting on you is basically reassure them that what they're afraid of isn't going to happen, which requires a lot of patience if you're not a fear point, really. All right, the Enneagram 7, gluttony. They're addicted to gluttony, meaning they never have enough anything. They have to have more and more and more. So if an Enneagram 7 goes to, for example, a museum or a hotel, and they have a bunch of pamphlets about activities, they'll take one of everything because they don't want to miss out on anything. They're also risk takers. They like the thrill of the risk because they secretly think they're smarter than anybody out there, and they can gamble and win at it. So here's what happened. I had a 3-7. I see a lot of 3-7 couples. She complained to me that he wasn't making reliable money because he would invest in risky ventures. He was also a business consultant. So he would work when he wanted to and then go off and have fun because he didn't want to be trapped or nailed down. He'd go have fun and spend his money and then go back and make some more. And then he would invest in anything that looked exciting and appealing and new. So his income looked like this. And his Enneagram 3 wife, who didn't want to take those kind of risks, because remember, she arrows into 6, so she didn't really want to take that kind of risks. And she didn't want him gambling away their money, although she had a good living and she had a good job. She complained he was driving her crazy. So he came in and we put up the goal, stable income. And I said, this is what your graph is going to look like for next year. So we cleared him up of the tendencies he had to gamble and take risks. And his income went like this. It literally straightened out. And his wife thanked me. But in the meantime, she's a heart-centered point. That means when they have sex, she wants to connect at the heart and have a deep, meaningful feeling experience, emotional feeling experience with her partner. He, on the other hand, is a 7. They're into fun. I want to have sex for fun. Why can't we just have fun? Let's have some fun. Which really, and he's up in his head. I want deep emotional connection. I want to look in each other's eyes and feel each other's heart while we're making love. And he's like, hey, let's have some fun. So that really turned around. She thought, what is wrong with this man, right? really turned her off. So I had to explain that he's coming from a different point of view. There's nothing wrong. He's thinking, why can't she just have fun? Why can't sex just be fun? Why does she make this heavy, deep thing out of it all the time? So, so we actually upgraded him. Remember, the sevens are cut off at the neck from their feelings. So, that was going to be pretty hard to have him go deep in his heart and make a connection. Yeah. Well, he was programmed as a seven, but we upgraded his seven and opened his heart. We connected his head with his heart and his gut. That was good. That was very important. We connected all three centers. How about that? And then he was able to have, a deeper love relationship with her. And meanwhile, we upgraded her so that, she could have fun also while she's having sex. And then that straightened things out. I had to clear them from both sides. So that was good. So we took care of the issues in their personality structure, and then they were able to move. Now, I had a charming couple. The woman was an Enneagram 3. All she wanted to do in life was achieve and be the best. And she's very ambitious, you understand. And she connected up in college with a man who's an Enneagram 9. The Enneagram 9s, let's look at this. The Enneagram 9s are addicted to sloth. Sloth means laziness. So she's ambitious. She wants to be a famous lawyer, and he just wants to basically get a degree in finance and make enough money to take care of his family and keep his lovely wife happy, right? Nines like everybody to be happy around them. I just want you to be happy. That's why they're nice to have around. I like my husband. He wants me to be happy. If I'm upset, he just says something that makes me laugh, and now I'm happy. So they're good to have. They're keepers, yeah. So anyway, here's what happened. The Enneagram 9s lie a lot. They lie. You think that the 3s are addicted to deceit, but the 9s lie like nobody's business, and they're very subtle about it. But she kept catching him because since she's familiar with deceit, she can pick up when somebody's lying. The 3s can pick up when people lie. It's very cool. So she yelled at him, I can't trust you because you lie all the time. So she sent him in for therapy so that we could treat the lying patterns. So we treated the lying patterns, and now he doesn't lie anymore, and they're still together. It's very sweet. But in the meantime, she came in because she wanted to do better in her career. So I treated her for some of the drivenness in her 3 type so that she could relax. She succeeded, but was able to enjoy her success rather than feeling it's never enough, it's never enough, it's never enough, higher, 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 right? And then here's the 8. Forgot to mention the 8. The 8s are addicted to lust, but that doesn't mean, oh, let's have an orgy. Lust means an intense, passionate drivenness for something, right? So the 8s are addicted to intense experiences, not of danger per se. They just want to have intensity because they need the intensity to feel alive. So these people are pretty scary because they're so intense. Now, fortunately, the 9s, who are very good at mediating and peacekeeping and smoothing things over, are also gut points, and they can match the energy of an 8 and mellow them out. So look at this combination here. The 8, who gets people going, is very intense and gets things done, collaborates with a 9, who's very smooth and doesn't move unless you get them going. But once you get them going, then they get going, and then they also take care of you and calm you down. So again, I'm going to get you moving, and I'm going to keep you stable. Nice combination there. So wings and arrows. And so sometimes couples will come in, they'll be fighting, and I realized that the problem is they're an Enneagram mismatch. I just laughed. Oh, you're an Enneagram mismatch. You're a head point, you're a heart point, you don't understand what's going on. Why can't he just? Because he's not programmed that way. Why can't she just? Because she's not programmed that way. So there you have it. Now, there's a lovely book.
Judith, you didn't explain number 4, envy.
Oh no, how did I miss that? Good point. All right, envy. The fours are addicted to envy. Envy means they're always comparing themselves to everyone around them to figure out if they're better than or worse than somebody, if they're superior or inferior. So they have this internal comparing machine that's always looking for, are you superior or inferior to me? Because they have to be the most special, unique, and different person in the world. And so if they're going to be the most special, unique, and different, they have to be better than everybody else. So if somebody comes in who's equal to them or better than them at something, they go into envy. It's really annoying. So they tend to be jealous, which is really a problem. And so no amount of reassurance actually works on them. You can reassure a 6 that their fear isn't going to be real, but you can never reassure a 4 that they're special enough. So got to watch out for that. So, and the care and feeding of each type, if you understand these addictions, then you can speak to them properly. So when an Enneagram 1 criticizes you, you say, thank you for helping me fix this problem. And they feel understood and met. Yes, there's a flaw here. There's a problem. Nobody's seeing it. Nobody's fixing it. There's something wrong here. If you acknowledge, yeah, look at that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't see it. There's something wrong. I'm going to take care of it right now. Thank you so much. They feel really honored and really met and really appreciated, as opposed to get off my case, leave me alone, you critical so-and-so. Pride. The care and feeding of an Enneagram 2. They do for you, they do for you, they do for you, they do for you, they do for you. They want you to appreciate what they do for you. So you know what you say? I really appreciate what you just did for me. And you say it a lot. If you live with a 2, at least once a day, you should say something about, I really appreciate how well you take care of me. I really appreciate how thoughtful you are. And they are really very nice and thoughtful people. They really are, if they're healthy. For an Enneagram 3, you want to get along with a 3, you admire them. I admire your accomplishments. I admire your achievements. Because that's how they want to be seen. I admire your achievements. So are they vain? Yeah, but who cares? What the heck? They're programmed that way. Give them what they need. It's how hard is it to say, I appreciate your achievements. I admire what you've done. Learn to compliment people appropriately. For the 4, just say, look, you're the most special. Or I really appreciate what's special about you. Just use the word special a lot. For the 5s, treat them. Let me treat you. You don't have to pay for me. Let me treat you. They'll fall over. It's their wildest dreams. Somebody pay for them. Somebody treat them. Somebody give to them and not take away. Fear point. You just reassure them. You're afraid of this? Well, it's not going to happen. Don't worry. It'll be fine. You reassure them. If you have to reassure them 10 times a day, reassure them 10 times a day. Gluttony. You know what you do there? You just say, have you had enough? Would you like some more? And at some point, they might actually stop. Yeah, I think I've had enough. But at least you care enough to ask, have you had enough? The Enneagram 8, lust. Let's do something intense. Let's come up with some idea and do something intense and magnificent. Great. Let's do something fun. That's great. Sloth. You know what you say? Hey, let's get going. Let's get going. How about we do, you say we a lot. How about we do this, we do that? And when they do it, when they go along with you and do it, you say, I thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Or thank you so much for doing this for me. It makes me so happy. Because they just want to make you happy. So you tell them how happy they make you. Then they're happy. Right? So just these are absolute basics. Now in the book, The Enneagram Made Easy, I like this because they have, in the write-up, they have cartoons, but they also have a little blurb in each chapter about how to get along with my type, how to get along with me. So, for example, here we are on the 4, the romantic. How to get along with me. Give me plenty of compliments. They mean a lot to me. Yes, because you let them know how special they are, you see. And be a supportive friend or partner. Help me to learn to love and value myself. Because why are they comparing? Because they feel inferior. So you have to tell them that they're worthy and they should value themselves and what's good about them. And then respect me for my special gifts of intuition and vision. And then, though I don't always want to be cheered up when I'm feeling melancholy, I sometimes like to have someone lighten me up a little and don't tell me I'm too sensitive or I'm overreacting. So the heart-centered point. The 4 is a heart-centered point. They're emotionally sensitive. All the heart-centered points are emotionally sensitive. And of course, if you're an Enneagram 5 and you're emotionally insensitive, and the 4 is emoting, and you have contempt for that because you don't understand it's a different style, then you tell them they're overreacting. So, and then they hate that because they think, what's wrong with you that you're not sensitive and you don't understand me? And the other thing about 4s is they like every single feeling. They have the most emotional range of any type. They like to feel. They like to feel all the time. And they like to have their feelings validated. And no other type has that range of emotional sensitivity. So somebody says, I'm really not feeling anything. And the 4 says, but I think you're sad. Are you sad? And they're like, no, I'm not. The 4 goes, what do you mean you're not? I can see that you're sad. And then, and then you say, well, why are you saying that to me? I'm not sad. And the 4 thinks you're an idiot. And the other type thinks you're an idiot. So really understand, let's summarize here, 9 different types. Understand that there are 3 centers, the head centers, the heart centers, the gut centers. Understand that the head points are driven by fear, the heart points are driven by shame, the gut points are driven by anger, and understand that the head points value knowledge, logic, rational thinking, the heart points value feeling and emotional connection, and the gut points value doing and truth. So, take an Enneagram test, read a book. I recommend the book also if you want to get along with somebody, The Enneagram in Love and Work by Helen Palmer. And she basically goes through the types of interactions, the positive and negative side of interactions. She matched with every single type, So if you want to look at what's going to be the problem between 3s and 9s at work, it'll tell you. So there you go. Everybody has a type. Everybody's got an operating system. It's very important to know your type. It's very important to know other people's type is different than yours. And so meet the people who are your similar type or the same type, understand people who are different. And then you can actually have an intimate relationship with somebody because you really understand their insides very deeply. And of course, it opens up conversation like nobody's business. Why are you reacting like that? What do you value? When this happens, what kind of meaning do you make out of it? There you go. So this is the end of the intimacy webinar with the Enneagram emphasis. Next session, we're going to do sexual chemistry. And I've invited a guest lecturer, the very famous Patty Stanger, the millionaire matchmaker from television. She's a friend of mine, and I asked her if she would do a webinar in this series on sexual chemistry. And Patty Stanger knows more about sexual chemistry than probably anybody, and she has a line of pheromone perfumes. Talk about chemistry for real. And she currently has a television show on the CW, I believe it is. It's called The Matchmaker, because in the past she did The Millionaire Matchmaker, where she matched millionaires, but now she's matching regular people, regular successful people. And so she just called it The Matchmaker. And I just finished watching the last session last night. So she has agreed a month from now to give a guest lecture on sexual chemistry in this series. So stay tuned, watch for the newsletters, and sign up and bring your friends, okay? All right. Go know yourself better, know your partners better, learn the Enneagram, communicate intimately, and blessings upon you. Bye.
Thank you.